Welcome everyone to LIBR104, Public Services for Library Technicians at Western Dakota Tech. I'm Dorothy Ryan and I will be your instructor for this semester. Since most of you took LIBR 102 last semester, you already know a bit about me, so I'll try and keep this short. I have a Master of Arts degree in Information Resources and Library Science from the University of Arizona. I've worked in many different kinds of libraries in many different roles. I started off as a page at a public library. I was a library clerk at a high school library. I then moved on to a Superior Court Law Library and I was a library assistant there. My first librarian position once I had my degree was at a technical college and I was the only librarian there. And then I moved to a mid-sized to small public university and I was an instructional services librarian there for some years. And I eventually became a library director at a small liberal arts college. If you need to contact me throughout the semester, you can use the email through my WDT. You can use the school Outlook email and use the email address you see there, dorothy.ryan@wdt.edu. We can also speak over the phone or over Skype or some sort of program like that if you would like to speak either face-to-face or in person. Just let me know if that's your preference and we can set that up. Your textbook for this course is Library Programs and Services by Evans, Saporano, Christie, and Sinwell, 8th edition. Please note that this is the same book that was used in LIBR 102. So let's talk a bit about what you can expect as far as the methods of instruction in this course. Similar to many other courses that you will have readings, both in textbook and other supplemental readings. Mandatory but supplemental. There'll be some videos for you to watch. You will of course have discussion questions for the class. There'll be some tutorials. You'll have plenty of written assignments, a few quizzes, and there is a final project which is a reference desk simulation. As mentioned in the syllabus, all written submissions must be in doc or docx format, no PDFs please, and should have this assignment header on it. Failure to include the assignment header will result in an automatic grade, letter grade deduction. There is at least one thing due every week, sometimes more than one thing. Assignments are due by 11:55 p.m. on the posted due date. You can find due dates in a number of places. The instructor syllabus, under syllabus in my WDT, is the syllabus of record. That's the due date that will always be the correct due date. If you find discrepancies between, say, something in the actual my WDT coursework or one of the other due date platforms or formats, the instructor syllabus is always the correct due date. I try to make sure those things are all the same, but sometimes there are typos or I miss something changing from semester to semester. But the instructor syllabus will always be the thing I go back to say this is the correct due date. In my WDT, there's a tab called Due Dates, and you can find the list of assignments and when they are due in two different formats. A table, which is exactly like the table in the syllabus, and a calendar. So if you prefer the calendar format, if that just helps you out and makes things easier to organize, please take a look at those and see if you prefer either one of those. Please do turn your work in on time. If you ever have a question about a due date or an assignment, the sooner you ask that question, the better. Email me and I will try to get you an answer back as soon as I can. All right, let's talk about late work. If you have
a legitimate reason for not submitting your work on time, please contact me as soon as possible so that we can discuss when you might be able to get the assignment in. I do take late work. We're going to try and keep it within a certain window of time. I find that it's easy to get overwhelmed when you get too far behind, and sometimes it's better to just let something go and move on to the next thing, but it all depends on what the circumstances are. However, if you let me know as quickly as possible that you're having trouble getting an assignment in for whatever reason, we can talk about possible solutions to that. All late work does receive a point deduction regardless of the circumstances, so keep that in mind. However, most of the time some points is better than no points at all. Certainly if you don't submit your work, you're going to receive a 0 on that assignment. Consecutive zeros in the gradebook make it very difficult to impossible to pass a course. Academic dishonesty encompasses a lot of different things. I'm sure you already realize that if you were to, say, purchase or borrow a paper from someone else and turn it in with your name on it, that would be considered academic dishonesty. A few other things would be, say you wrote a paper in one course and you were able to somehow match the subject matter and you just took that paper and turned it in another course. That would be considered academically dishonest as well. I'm sure it's no surprise to you that instructors and professors intend for you to do whatever assignment is given as original work in that course. So if you were just to take something that you did in another course and turn that in without, really adding to it or doing something a little bit different with it, that would be considered academic dishonesty. Obviously, cutting and pasting a whole bunch of stuff from the internet without citing it, or taking something from a book or an article and using it in a paper and not citing it, that would be plagiarism, which is the form of academic dishonesty that you're probably most familiar with. Also, turning in, if you were to turn in, let's say, a paper, an essay that was nothing but citations, that would also not be okay, unless that was the assignment. But usually you're going to be asked to do something with material that you find, to think about it and express either an opinion or an argument or something like that. If you have questions about plagiarism or other forms of academic dishonesty, please email me. It's better to ask and get your questions taken care of up at the front. Like most instructors, when I find plagiarism, I find it incredibly disappointing. I will fail you on assignments if that's the case, and there are also additional steps that can be taken if I find that you are plagiarizing a lot. It's not going to help you in your education. It's mostly just going to hurt you if you do that. So think about that, and if you do have any questions, please shoot me an email and I can either respond to the email or we can chat over the phone or something like that if you have any questions. I'd like to talk to you a bit about my expectations of you in this course. First, I do expect you to turn your work in on time. Now, I have a late policy because I acknowledge that life happens and sometimes you can't turn something in by the deadline. I understand this. I have a policy for it. You just need to communicate your needs to me as far ahead as you have them. Of course, if an emergency comes up and you can't turn something in by the deadline, you need to talk to me as soon after that point as you can. Which brings me to the second expectation, which is that you as an adult in college can control your own calendar. And what I mean by that is that you have thought about when you're going to do coursework. When are you going to have time to do the reading? When are you going to have time to do the assignments? You need to have a plan A, and then you need to have a plan B for when plan A doesn't work out. Be aware of, what you have coming up as a student, but also as just a person and living your life. If you know that if you have some obstacles as far as your time management goes, think about that ahead of time. Plan ahead as much as you can. The other thing I want to point out about the course and all courses, in the syllabus and in the coursework, but more importantly in the syllabus, you'll see that there are due dates. You're meant to start those assignments before the due date. Don't go into the course and open something up on the day it's due. Especially as you move forward in this program, you're going to find that assignments get more and more complicated and more reliant on the reading or the tutorial or the video that you were supposed to have engaged with. And you just simply will not have time to complete assignments if you don't work on them ahead of time. So due dates are when they're due, not when you should start the assignment. The next thing is I expect you to communicate any issues and concerns you have in a timely manner. So back to the due date thing. If you wait too long to look at an assignment and it turns out you don't understand it, emailing me the day it's due or 2 hours before it's due asking for help, that's fine. If you need to do that, I encourage you to do that, but it would be better if you were to ask for that help several days in advance. So definitely look ahead, plan ahead, and communicate any issues or concerns that you have as soon as you know that you have them. And then the final thing is you are responsible for all course content, unless it's very specifically labeled either optional, something like that. Assume that everything is required. It's mandatory. So every video, every announcement, every assignment, of course, you know that the assignments are mandatory, but any readings that are assigned, all of these things are things that you may be called upon to engage with and demonstrate that you've engaged with. So please keep that in mind. So your first few assignments in this course are all in the discussion forum or discussion board. The first one is an introduction. Please introduce yourself to the class. Read that assignment carefully because there's some additional specific information I'd like you to include in your introduction. And then respond and say hello to your classmates. The introduction post should be done by 11:55 p.m. on Tuesday, please, and the responses by Thursday. There is an additional assignment in week 1, and that is in module 1, and it's called the Freedom to Read initial post. You'll want to get that in by Friday of the first week, please, by 11:55 on Friday, and there is reading to do prior to that particular discussion forum. So get going on that, and welcome to the class, and I hope you have a fantastic semester.